Welcome to Enviro Close-Up. I am Carl Grossman. The subject, the politics of paper, paper production, paper use in the United States and around the world. And our guest is Frank Locantore. He is the director of Co-op America's Woodwise Program. Welcome, Frank.
Thanks, Carl.
Now, we're kind of taking off on this issue from a cover piece in E! The Environmental magazine. In fact, the cover of E! The Environmental magazine is labeled The Politics of Paper, an extensive story, and some of the facts that E! Jim Motovalli, the editor of E!, lays right out are just devastating. For example, paper producers take down to make paper 1 billion trees a year, or 12,430 square miles of forest. I mean, that's the size of New Jersey. I mean, I had no idea the extent of the devastation caused by the sort of like mining for paper.
Yes. I mean, the paper industry is a highly destructive industry. You just named the environmental concern that you might have, whether it's greenhouse gas and climate change or water pollution, air pollution. The manufacturing of paper affects all of them to a significant degree. The third largest consumer of energy after the steel industry. Just fantastic amounts of raw materials are needed in order to produce paper. And paper is a very valuable resource. I mean, it's a very important product to have in that it helps to communicate ideas for hygiene, education. It's very important, but does it need to be made out of wood fiber exclusively? No, it doesn't.
I mean, again, some of the points, some of the facts in this cover story in E! The Environmental magazine just blew me away, and I follow environmental issues pretty closely for many years. For example, they note that the devastation of rainforests to produce paper in Indonesia is so intense that Indonesia is going to just run out of forests by the year 2007 because it's been taking them down to produce paper.
Yeah, I mean, what's going on in Indonesia is really horrible. And it's not just Indonesia. I mean, we can just turn to the southeastern United States, where there's a tremendous amount of trees being harvested in order to produce paper. And we're looking at some of the most biologically diverse areas of the continental United States. The Cumberland Plateau, recently named a biogem region with NRDC, is under tremendous amount of pressure, where forests are just being cleared to be chipped and just turned into pulp for paper use. All over the world, there are problems with the harvesting and even illegal harvesting of trees for paper and paper products. But also just here in the Southeast, we don't have to go too far.
What's the alternative?
The alternative is to reduce the pressure that we're putting on our forests. We need to be able to make paper not exclusively from virgin tree fiber. We need to be able to introduce new fibers into the paper making process. So some options are post-consumer paper. The materials that we're throwing into our blue boxes for the curbs can be collected and put into a giant blender and made into new pieces of paper.
Let's get now into like what people sure need to do a lot here, what people can do and what's being done already. I mean, Co-op America has been working, as the E-piece notes, in a coalition, in a network. You've had major conferences and stuff. Describe what's been happening in terms of citizen action and what the viewer can do.
So they can look for what are magazine publishers doing? What are book publishers doing? What can I look for when I go to Office Depot or Staples or Office Max on the shelves? And what should I be purchasing there? And the Center for a New American Dream is working to establish a great tool for government purchasers and other purchasers of an environmental scorecard, so that they can, grade paper options with an environmental understanding too of their post-consumer recycled content, or their tree-free fiber, or their chemical processes. So consumers can go to all these different organizations' websites, find out what's going on. They can also visit coopamerica.org and look at the Woodwise program and see the different tips of how you can reduce your own personal consumption, as well as work to communicate these messages to magazine publishers as well.
Yeah, I have visited, of course, the Woodwise program's website. I mean, you have manuals and you have suggestions and you a whole toolbox of things people can do.
Yeah, there's the Woodwise Consumer Guide that you can call our office and get a copy sent to you in the mail, or you could access it online. And it has over 60 tips for how you can help reduce pressure on forests by making your own message pads, or purchasing and voting with your dollars and purchasing environmentally preferable papers, or sending messages to large purchasers of paper, like, again, catalogs, magazines. And in the hard copy of the Woodwise Consumer Guide, there's also little stickers that you can put on those subscription cards that always fall out of your magazines that say, "Dear publisher, please begin printing on recycled paper," and go to our, the website to find out more details on how you can do it. So it's a good little toolkit for consumers on how to learn what to do.
And there's also recommendations for people to push for CANAF and hemp and agricultural residues. I mean, this destructive trip, and this is your point, is not necessary.
Here in New York, I mean, I grew up on Long Island, and I remember the Islip Town trash barge that couldn't find a place to dock. I believe that was, one of the key reasons for the increase in the blue boxes and the curbside recycling programs. And that is a key way to divert waste from the waste stream. So putting your materials in the blue box is an important thing to do. That still needs to be tinkered with to make it more effective, so that there's not a lot of contamination. But I highly encourage people to, every time you get a catalog that you don't want, or every time you finish reading a National Geographic or People magazine, and you're done with it, toss it into your recycling bin, because we really need to create the supply of this recovered fiber. The production of paper, as we've talked about, is a devastating process when you're using virgin fiber, and it doesn't have to be that way. We have within our ability to produce paper that not only is less harmful, but it can actually be a positive, and it can remedy, done in the right way, it can remedy a lot of the problems. We can produce paper, and in fact, my colleague Alan Hershkowitz at NRDC has written a book about this, of how we can have a paper mill that actually, the water that goes into the paper mill can come out cleaner at the other end. It can reduce the amount of pollution. It can clean up brownfields. It can use post-consumer recycled paper and tree-free fibers and agricultural wastes. It doesn't have to be the case. We can put our heads together, and we know that there are alternatives to clear-cutting forests and emitting toxic chemicals and pollution into our environment. It doesn't have to be that way. And if the paper industry does take those steps over the next decade or two, we'll see a drastic reduction in the negative environmental impacts.
Truly, the politics of paper can and must be reformed. Frank Locantore, thank you so much. You can check out the website, Co-op America's Woodwise Program website for a lot of more information. Check out the article in the Environmental magazine, The Politics of Paper, May-June 2004 issue. If you'd like a copy of this or any Enviro Close-Up program, just check out our website, envirovideo.com. I'm Carl Grossman. Thanks for watching.